All right, geometry, welcome to week 2. This week we're going to be focusing on quadrilaterals. These 3 skills will be broken up by the 3 specific types of quadrilaterals that we studied: parallelograms, trapezoids, and kites. Now, even though parallelograms can include even more specific shapes, such as rectangles, rhombuses, and squares, we're only going to focus on the entire group as parallelograms. So this first video is going to cover just parallelograms. Let's take a look at what we need to know. So the first thing we're supposed to know about a parallelogram is that opposite sides are congruent. That means that they are equal in length. If my goal is to solve for u, I'm going to have to take these 2 expressions and set them equal to each other. Now you'll notice that there's a u on that side. That does not matter. I only want to set the 2 that are across from each other equal. So 9u minus 98 equals 8u minus 84. Now we perform our algebra. Subtracting 8u from both sides of the equation. Don't lose the negative sign on the 84. Now we simply add. Because the question simply says to solve for u, our answer should be 14. I'm going to type in the answer of 14. We'll check and see if our score increases from 28. And you can see our score has improved. Speaking of scores, real quick, please keep in mind, guys, I am not asking you to try to get to 100 points on every skill. That would be very challenging for most of you without the help of a teacher. I only ask that you try to earn 200 points over the 3 skills. That means averaging about 70 points per skill. Once you hit a score of 70 on the skill, I would recommend scrolling up, clicking on Learning, and moving on to the next recommended skill. If you feel like you're very good at the skill you're currently working on, go ahead and get some extra points if you can in that skill. But I only need a total of 200 over all 3 of them. Don't feel like you have to get to 100. The test does not end unless you hit 100. So there's no benefit to trying and struggling over and over and over again if you can just get 70 much more quickly on all 3 of the skills. Now, let's take a look at another parallelogram. This question is going to look nearly identical to the last one. The big difference is this does not say to solve for the variable t. It asks us to find the length of gj. Now that means we still need to solve for t, but there will be an extra step at the end. So the first thing I want to do is take the sides that are opposite each other and once again set them equal. For t minus 74 equals t minus 2. Perform the algebra. Finally, divide. But if you type in 24 for your answer, you'll get it incorrect. In order to get the answer correct, we have to take the t value and substitute it in for gj. So I have to plug 24 in and take 24 minus 13. That should give me a final answer of 11. So you can see currently it says we have a score of 64. I'm going to type in 11 to confirm that that is the answer. And you can see our score has improved. Now, not every question is going to be about side lengths. Sometimes they're going to ask us about the segments that are inside the parallelogram. Those are called diagonals. We are supposed to remember that in a parallelogram, the diagonals bisect each other. That means they divide each other in half. So, if VZ, which is located right here, is 2u minus 41, and XZ, which is this segment right here, simply equals u, they would like me to solve for u. Well, this piece and this piece are 2 halves of a diagonal. That means they too are equal. So I'll simply solve this problem by setting the two expressions once again equal to each other. Perform my algebra. And I get a final answer of 41. This problem does in fact ask me to just find u. However, if it had asked me to find the length, I would just plug it back in. So we'll type in 41 and make sure our score increases from 36. And you can see that once again our score has improved. The final example for this video is going to be about not sides or segments, but instead about angles. We are supposed to remember that if angles are across from each other in a parallelogram, they too are equal. So if they give you an expression for one angle and another angle that's across from it, solve them just like we did the last two problems. But what happens if they give us two angles beside each other like this question? This is the only time where we're not going to set two things equal to each other. Instead, we should know that two angles that are beside each other in a parallelogram will always be supplementary. That means they add up to 180 degrees. So I'm going to start off on this problem by adding the two expressions together. After I put the sum of the two expressions together, I set that equal to 180 degrees. To solve this problem, we will first combine like terms. 3u, 1u, they're on the left side of the equation, so they combine to give us 4u. From here, the problem is very similar to the previous questions. Let's do our algebra. And then I just simply have to divide. So, once I have solved for u, All I have to do is plug it into my answer. You can see that currently we have 43 for our SMART score. When I plug in 66, hopefully we will see that number increase. And there you go. You can see once again the score has increased. So if you can answer the questions that I've gone over, you should be able to easily get to a score of 70 or more in this skill. Keep in mind that once you reach a score of 70, you might see questions much more difficult than the ones that I've covered. So you're welcome to try those, but don't feel obligated to keep going if it gets too difficult. Just try your best, and I'll see you in the next video.